Yo guys, this is Reinhardt, and this is gonna be a rant about World of Dra. First of all, as you can see, I just got resurrected from the dead because my name is Vladimir in real life and I'm parent name of Empire. But anyway, let's actually talk about World of Dra, because I think that World of Dra is gonna be more disappointing than Barack's Obamacare. Yeah, I said it. And the reason why is I think the complexity of the game is missing. So my hopes would have been scrapped a lot of AoE instant cast CC, so you don't have to be CC'd all the time. But in return, they would actually add more complexity into rotation, into the actual DPS rotation for the most of the classes. So it takes quite a bit of actual strategy and setup to be very effective at killing somebody or healing somebody. But kind of the direction went actually the opposite way. The good examples of those would be Unholy lost Necrotics, Scourge Strikes do damage outside the disease range, and the spec overall is a huge mess. Warriors, they lost Heroic Strike, Slam, they lost Overpower. Why? Why there was a need to consolidate all of those abilities and take them away? Nobody had any problem with those DPS rotations, right? So the only thing might have been should have been taken out is like a throw for warrior or something, or maybe even build up more that actually make it more useful. That's what should have kind of happened instead of making a warrior a four button rotation right now. This is what the warriors do. Literally, Colossal Smash, Mortal Strike, Execute, and RANT every now and then. 4 abilities. Out of those, 1 dot. 3 strikes. Out of those 3 strikes, all of them are on cooldown. So they're literally actually falling asleep during the auto attacks until they get rage, until the ability is going to come off of the cooldown. Very, very boring playstyle, and I was hoping to actually play a warrior as my second class. And that theme goes beyond just the warriors. It goes for almost every single class. The only ones that kind of relatively became untapped would be rogues, but they got a pretty easy mechanic too, where their combo points is actually sitting on the rogue now. So basically, they swap from one target to the other target. Whatever combo points they had on the previous target will be applied to the following. What? Why? Why they should be making the game easier? Ferals, 4 button rotation, miserable. Warlocks, they messing around with a soul burn mechanic, and that is the soul burn mechanic is the way they made it is absolutely terrible. Then the reason why is because the dots just don't do damage. It's very easy. The warlocks actually balance around casting Malefic Grasp. I mean, let me tell you this: how many classes do you see actually channeling something, or how easy or how hard it would be to channel a Malefic Grasp? And not even that is when the warlock is actually getting hit by a warrior or any melee. He's not going to be casting Malefic Grasp into somebody else's face simply because Warrior's single target is actually higher damage than Affliction Locks. So he has to kite. So Malefic Grasp was actually a very, very bad mechanic. I was hoping he actually would have been pretty decent, but no. What I was hoping for was actually go back to Cataclysm days where they would scrap all of that. Just put a Soul Swap on a 30-second cooldown and essentially make us cast all our dots. But in return, actually make those dot damage matter. Make it matter, because in Cataclysm, our dots were ticking for 3-4k damage. That's how much they hit for in World of Dra, actually less. The dots in World of Dra, with everybody having 300k HP pools, the dots actually for Affliction Lock hit less. Bad mechanic. Good example is they should have actually built up on every single class, figuring out its niche and actually make it more complex in terms of rotations instead of actually dumbing down the game further. And also they should have actually brought a few of the class identity skills. Good example is Pharaoh's instant cast Cyclone. It was never overpowered. Pharaoh's never dominated the brackets too much. The only reason why instant cast Cyclone got overpowered was not because it was always broken mechanic. No. It was a very interesting playstyle. I remember I was watching Hydra's video where the Hydra would kite somebody behind the pillar, pop the AoE dispel, and dispel the freaking instant cast Cyclone. Or I remember when I would dispel instant cast Cyclones with my Icy Touch or I would copy them with my Dark Simulacrum. That was a very interesting playstyle, where the fellow tried to juke those Dark Simulacrums, and the Decay would try to actually steal as many as he can in terms of those Cyclones. What happened is we looking like a Arnold Schwarzenegger looking freaking cat, like hardcast Cyclones, and it looks very, very awkward. So what happened is Mr. Pandaria brought Shadow Dance. It brought a couple other, like, blindly Heart of the Wild. Like, they brought those abilities that actually were pretty strong and overpowered. So that's when it tipped the Feral over the edge and they took off the instant cast Cyclone. Should have been the opposite. They should have taken those things out of the game. So I guess that kind of ties back into the talents should have more choices for the specs baselines, because Ferals didn't need a Symbiosis. By far, he didn't need the Heart of the Wild or a freaking incantation form where he would spam Ravages. Excuse me. So instead, Feral was always about the very high sustained damage, grinding the targets down and cycloning so that he would deny any bursts on his team or deny the healing from his team, from the enemy team. And that's what should have been happened, not to actually going the opposite way. A lot of stuff like that actually happened. Warriors were so much more awesomer, I don't know how to say for better word, in Wrath of the Lich King, because they actually had a stance dance to close their mobilities, gap closing. They actually sacrificed some of their rage for that as well. But in return, their damage was scary and they had amazing utility. Like if they overpower during somebody else's cast, they will reduce their healing by a whole lot. I mean, the mechanic was pretty strong, but they could have some build up on that a little bit more and actually make it more complex and more enjoyable, rather than actually scrapping it and degrading Warrior to a 4-button rotation class. And that theme kind of goes across the board for everybody. I mean, Frostdecay is making look a lot of classes actually like it takes skill to play now. And it's not the right direction, because if it's easier to get good at your class, there's no challenge at all whatsoever. When there's no challenge for it, what happens is people get bored of the game. Plain and simple. Very, very plain and simple. Like, I don't know. So I made a post about missing the complexity of the game, but obviously they're not going to do about it, because as I said, they're already done with the major class designs. But I don't feel like they did any class design whatsoever. They just took a bunch of abilities out that didn't even make, half of them didn't make any sense to take them out. And there you go. This is a new class design. Enjoy. Here's a dookie. Enjoy, my friends. So, I don't think World of Dra is ready for us. Quite simply, the game will look boring. I'll probably play the game for 1 or 2 seasons and then just gonna give up on it, because there would be no challenge in playing it whatsoever. I enjoy the idea of actually getting really, really good at your class, so then you can actually compete in the high bracket, but not because the game is simple, but because the game is very hard to play. And all the time that you invested into getting good at the game pays off. I don't like the opposite of it, where here's a 4 buttons, there's you go. Just make sure you don't press 2 or 3 or 4. Oh, you need to press 2 or 3 or 4 in the specific. Oh, come on! 4-button rotation warriors, like warriors themselves, like just crying. Blightsey case, I mean, obviously it's a PvE related thing, but they lost Root Strike, they lost Heart Strike. What gives? Why? Their rotation wasn't complicated at all. What, like, that's the thing I kind of class theme, class design should have been top notch in World of Dra. When you play your class, it should have been felt a lot more complex and a lot more depth in it. There should be time to set up the burst, but when you set up, it would have been paying itself very well. Even in Mr. Pandaria, let's say, being a Holy Decay took a decent amount of skill. Basically, you needed to realize when to Necrotic Strike, when to Scourge Strike, when to do what at specific times, how to reapply your diseases and all that stuff, especially when you're fighting against like a monk paladin or something like that, when they dispel the shit out of your diseases. You needed all that. In World of Dra, what's the point? Yeah, you put your diseases up, but guess what? Scourge Strike does damage regardless of the diseases. Game is just bland. Like it's to the point. It's a really bland game playstyle. And I know you might say I'm sounding like a doom and gloom or something like that, but try it for yourself when the game comes out. So, I'm a PvPer, so even though the garrisons are nice, I can build a fucking castle in Skyrim if my heart desires. I've actually been playing Skyrim for a little bit of time. I can actually build a freaking castle, create my own guild of vampires or some shit like that, and create my Death Knight the way I wanted to in that game. So when it comes to PvE, there's a lot of other games that actually because of much better content than WoW. So PvP was the only thing that kind of held me back and interested in the game. And if there's no challenge in PvP, then what's the deal? Anyway, this is my partake on it. Let me know what you think yourself personally. Thanks, guys, and до свидания.